Keehlan's recording, so we've probably used the start. This is what she does, keepers. We are literally about to record and she goes, I think we should change the way we open this session.
I like to keep you on your toes.
Keeping it real.
Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jimmy Ral.
That was quite cute. Okay, so this episode is called The Art of Asking Great Questions.
So is that our start? We're not even going to do
How are you, Ral? Is that a good question?
That is a great question.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You know, I used to work with a woman who you'd come in.
Stop to hear how I am.
Well, this is my story, right? I can't believe I just did it. I used to work with this woman and as soon as she came in on Monday, she'd go, I've been thinking about stuff and get straight into work. And I would go, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes.
And I trained her, you should always say, how are you?
Yes.
And then you'd come in and go, how are you? And then anyway, I've been thinking, I go, right, now you need to stop, pause and listen to the answer and perhaps even do the follow-up question of, and how are you?
Beautiful. I love how you made her listen.
I know. And I love how
teaching
I
listening skills.
told a story about someone else and I just did
Exactly what you told her not to do.
I have people that listen to this podcast and go, why does Jack always tell you off for not listening? Because I think you're a very good listener. I went, right, I'll give her that feedback at our next performance review.
Oh, listen to it. Those are your fans, the Ral fan group. I love it. All right. Well, today's episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and
Ral
is the art of asking great questions. How are you, Ral?
I'm bloody brilliant. Brilliant.
Good.
So
why are you brilliant? You've had a little holiday? You've been away?
Been away for a few weeks. I did a bit of work in the Hunter Valley and then went straight to our property at Bermagui. So we spent about 3 weeks up there and escaped most of the crappy Melbourne weather.
Love it.
And, so I've been back for about a week. It was nice.
It was beautiful weather. I was sort of living your life vicariously through your Instagram stories.
Blue
skies.
Beach and kangaroos.
And fire pits, red wine, and great cooking.
Yeah, and burning off. Oh, my God.
Great cooking, burning off. Not your own burning man.
No. It's okay. I'm like a pig in mud when I've got to burn off time.
You like to burn off?
So love a good thing. You can just watch fires forever.
Well, they're good. We've got one going right behind us now, keeping us warm here at the farm. It's freezing cold.
Asking questions.
The art of asking questions.
You always talk about the importance, the absolute importance of asking questions, but asking good questions. And there is an art to it and a skill to it. So
There absolutely is. When I was a little girl, I used to think I might like to be a journalist. Mm-hmm. And when somebody asked me, I think it was a teacher or something, why do you want to be a journalist? I had to think about it because I didn't really know. I hadn't given it much thought. And then I realised it's because you get to find out things. And the way you get to find out things is
to ask questions.
Ask good great questions. Exactly right. So the beauty of asking great questions is it deepens and broadens your knowledge. If you're only ever repeating what you know, then you don't learn, right? So if you ask questions, you gain new information. It also challenges belief. Some of the best conversations I've had or dinner parties have been when somebody has challenged me on something. They haven't agreed with me, but they've done that respectfully and I've learned something.
Yeah.
And they've asked questions around that.
So is that like the classic, why do you say that or what makes you think that?
Why do you believe that?
Why do you believe that?
Yeah. Exactly right. And another benefit to asking great questions is you uncover new opportunities, yeah? So, and we all know this working, in a team or working in an organisation. Why have we always done it that way?
Yes. Why have we always done it that way? And people go, and
they often can't answer that.
They often can't answer. It was like, because we've always done it that way. It was like, right.
But I was
going to say, so clearly there's lots of benefits to asking good questions and it's why you talk about it so much and so important. But what stops people from asking questions?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
So why don't people ask more questions? Well, in my field of coaching, these would be the reasons. It would be that they just couldn't think of a question or they didn't think of a question, so they weren't prepared.
Yeah, because that's what you coach on people. You've got to be
being prepared.
We spoke about this in our job interview podcast. You've got to be prepared for some questions. And if you have a handful of almost go-to great questions, it'll get you through a lot of things.
A lot of things, which you hold that thought.
I will.
So not thinking of a question is one reason why people don't ask questions. They're not prepared. Fear of being judged. What if I speak up and ask something, and what if they think that that's a dumb question?
Yeah, the whole like, I didn't want to speak up because I didn't want to be judged. And we've said this before. You go to a meeting and not speak, you're being judged, and it's negatively being judged. But yeah, the whole I don't want to ask a stupid question. You know, when I say, okay, well, don't ask a stupid question.
Just ask a question.
Just ask a question.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
How many times have you been in a meeting and somebody said, I'm going to ask a question, it's probably stupid, and they ask it and you go, I was wondering that.
Yeah.
There's a really good chance the question you have, others are also wondering.
Yeah.
So then they think, well, she's cool. She at least asked.
Yeah. I actually did that the other day. We were in a meeting and we're doing this sort of prop for a conference I'm organising, and it's for people to take photos in it. You know, like the magazines where you sort of get behind it and it's like, you know, Woman of the Year magazine.
Yes.
And the designer had put 2 silhouettes of women in there.
Nice.
And I just said, now, I'm just checking. I probably know the answer to it, but I'm just going to ask the question just to clarify. Those silhouettes you got here are for illustrative purposes. They're not going to be actually there, are they? And they went, no, they're not going to be actually there. And someone else in the meeting said, I'm so glad you asked that because I thought they were going to be there.
There's my point.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that person didn't ask that question, or maybe they didn't feel it was a question. They just assumed they were going to be there.
They didn't think it was a question because they just assumed they were going to be there.
So what's another reason people don't ask questions, Ral?
You know what I think a lot of it is? They're waiting for the pause.
Oh.
They've got a question and they don't want to interrupt, so they're conscious of not interrupting.
Oh, my goodness.
So they're waiting for the pause.
beauty.
And in a meeting when there's a handful of people around or 10 people around,
Extroverts, a lot of men. Good
There's
luck
no
trying to get
pause.
a bloody question in.
there's no pause.
So
And-
what do you do in that situation,
Well, I think there's a few ways.
particularly if it's online?
Well, yes, particularly if it's online. So that is a very good insight. What you find is you've got to try to interrupt, but interrupt in respectfully. Maybe not interrupt when they are full middle of a sentence, but you can almost sense when they got to take a breath. What I find is if you're physically in a meeting or like around a table, move forward.
Yes, body
when
language.
people move forward,
Yes.
it's almost like it's signaling you're
Yes.
about to speak, and
Yes.
people know. And because it's a physical thing, they see that.
Yeah.
If you're in virtually, you can take yourself off mute. I mean, you can put the hand up.
A lot of people don't see that.
A lot of people don't see that. I tend to physically put my hand up and just sort of go like this, so it's physical to say, can I
Speak.
Can I just add to that? So it's not just can I interrupt, but can I just? That's a really good point. Can I just add to that, or can I ask a quick question before you move on?
Nice.
So it's finding a way to respectfully interrupt. And
Nice.
you know, the reality is you do have to interrupt, because if you're waiting for the pause, that's when you go to a meeting and you not say anything because you had a great question, but you never got around to asking it.
What a waste of potential. I was coaching somebody today, and their issue was that it's a talk fest every leadership team meeting. They're all online, and she can't get a word in, let alone a question. And I said, why don't you mute them? And she started to laugh, and she said, I think I have control of that. I probably could.
You do.
You do have control of it. And I said, why don't you try it?
You try it, and then you could just.
And then you can say, I've muted you all for a reason, because I wanted to say something. Once I've said it, I'll unmute you. She said that they'll probably just talk amongst themselves. And I said, oh, well, at least you'll be heard.
You know what you could do if you had someone who was dominating the whole conversation? Just mute them and then go, I don't know what happened then.
Must be one of those technical errors.
Automatic.
Keehlan, you know about those technical errors.
Or you could just blame it's automatic muting if you've been speaking too long.
Oh, I love
wouldn't that be cool?
Wouldn't that be good?
If that
Wouldn't that
not
be
even virtual,
good?
every
I
meeting.
love
If once
that.
you'd been talking too long, you're
Yeah.
like the
Leaf blower for people.
leaf blower for people. Like the US presidential debate where they changed the rules that after 2 minutes the microphone got
Awesome.
that's
Muted. Love
Beautiful.
it. Love it.
Beautiful.
All right. So the reason why people don't ask questions, you don't think of a question, so you're not prepared, you're fearful of being judged, and you don't get that opportunity. So we need you to get the opportunity. We need more questions being asked by everybody. And the key to asking great questions, have you guessed what it is, Ral?
I reckon it's listening, Jack.
For all of Ral's fans out there, she's finally learned active listening.
Shut up.
Can I tell you about a time that I didn't listen?
Yes, please.
When I was a young whippersnipper, radio announcer, one of my favourite artists of all time, so this will show my age, was Jimmy Barnes.
They're doing their 50th.
I know.
You going?
Probably.
Yeah.
Jimmy and I. And I was working in a radio station, regional radio station in Western Australia, and Jimmy Barnes was going to be dialing in to be interviewed, and I got the interview. I was so excited. I did all my prep.
How old were you?
21.
Oh, my God.
22, maybe. 22 I would have been, actually.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I mean, he was maybe 30.
Yeah.
Not much older than me. But
No. And that would have been sort of the peak.
Oh, they
Was
were
it the
at their peak.
Right.
They were at their. In fact, they were peaking.
Right,
They,
okay.
they were still doing pub gigs.
Yep.
Which was fortunate for us here. So I had done all my prep. I was ready to interview Jimmy Barnes. It was recorded over the phone. Back then we didn't have Zoom, so I couldn't see him. He couldn't see me. And he came on the phone. He was just awesome. He could tell I was young. I think he knew I was fairly amateur. And away I went. And he, as I asked each question, he answered them. And then I realised by about the sixth question, I had not once in any way did any ad-libbing or taken insight into some of the answers he was giving me to the questions to then ask a better question. And when I played the interview back, it was horrible.
Yeah.
He was great. He really was. And I remember thinking then at that tender age, wow, if you want to ask great questions, you need to listen.
Yeah.
Because what you might have prepared for may not end up being the questions you end up asking.
Yeah, exactly. When you were saying that, I was listening, but it was also reminding me of I do a lot of podcasts, guests on podcasts, and the worst ones is when they send me all the questions in
Ahead
advance.
of.
I hate that. So first of all, it means I've got to prepare, but it's like then it doesn't feel like a conversation.
No.
It just feels like asking question, answer, next question, and you're right, they're not
interview
listening.
almost, yeah.
It's almost like they're just time checking to go, all right, I've got 6 questions, I need to get through it.
And the beauty, the insight, the gems, the gold are in your responses, right? So an example might be, I ask you a question, what's your favourite wine?
Well, my favourite wine is clearly Wild Duck Creek Estate wine
Why?
because it's bloody good wine.
So what's good wine?
Oh, my God, now you're asking me too many questions. No, it's good wine. And they're our keepers and they're our sponsors, so we love them.
And it is awesome wine.
It's really good wine. It's really good. You know why I really love it? No, seriously, I'm going to say this, is it's just bloody great value for money.
Money.
For,
Because it's such premium wine. That's why.
You can
Compared to
spend
other
$25 on a bottle of wine and it
Rubbish.
not be worth $25. But with Wild Duck Creek Estate, you spend that amount of money and you go, I would easily pay 30, 40, 50 bucks for this.
for it. I often, and because we drink a little bit of Wild Duck Creek Estate for very good reason, we have been for years anyway, I'll take a sip and I'll go, gee, this is good. And I always think, there's like when I hop into bed at night, a good mattress is another, this is such a good mattress.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else when you're hopping into bed.
Okay, Jimmy Barnes, listen. Okay,
Yes,
really important.
listen.
Best questions are in response to listening to what someone says. But it's really important to still be prepared, right? So have a few questions ready. So keepers, if you are not somebody who asks a lot of questions and you want to get skilled up at this, because trust us, it will help you, you can have some things in the back of your mind that you are ready to ask at any moment. Things like, so what are you thinking about these days, Ral?
Yeah, that's a good one. Like a networking. You know,
Yeah.
when we did the thing on networking. You go to networking events. It's
What's
as
exciting
opposed to going,
you at the moment?
what
do
do
you
you
do?
do? Boring. What are you thinking about?
What's
what are you
exciting
excited
you
about? Yeah.
these days? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah.
What might surprise me about you?
Ooh,
That's a good one, isn't
question.
it?
Yeah. Do you have a list of questions that you?
I do.
Right.
So I was coaching a rock star just recently. I love coaching this person because they really challenge me. Yeah, so I've got to really be thoughtful about my responses. They always give me really good, meaty, issues and come up with really great things. So I'm on my game when I'm coaching this person. And they said to me, the problem with this new role is it is so broad. I actually have about 4 different functions that sit under me, so a very senior person working in financial services in another market, not Australia. And I need to be across everything that's going on, but that is not at all realistic or possible. So I need to know things, but I need to know the right things. And I said, sure, so how do you find out the right things? And she said, this is where I'm grappling because I'm getting, I think, the wrong information or I'm not getting enough information. I said, it sounds like you don't know the right questions to ask of your leaders. She said, that is it. So we sat and brainstormed some questions that she could ask and start to put into her sort of toolbox for each time she met with her leaders. They will always update her and brief her, but they're sort of updating her and briefing her on what they think she needs to know, but it might not necessarily be what she needs to know or what she needs to take up to the board.
Yep.
So I actually came up with a cheat sheet of questions, which we will put into the show notes, Keehlan, so that people can download this because it's a bloody beauty if I don't mind saying so myself.
I'm sure it is.
So do you want me to?
How many questions have you?
25.
25. Are we going to go through all 25?
We don't have to, but why don't we go through the first 5 or 6?
Let's go through a few and see.
So you can start with, if you were me, what would you know about this problem? What would you want me to know about this problem?
Yep.
If you only have 5 minutes to give me a summary of the most important things I should know about your role, project, campaign, challenge, issue, opportunity, what would you tell me in 5 minutes?
Yep. Good.
If I could help you solve one critical work issue this week, this month, what would it be?
Nice.
What is something I don't know that you think I should know in order to help our business move forward?
Oh, that's a good one. It's almost like what's something that you – I just thought of another one. Like what – and I'm not finding a way to plug our sponsors again, but what would you tell me that you haven't told me already after a few glasses of wine? What would you –
Well, not just wine, after a few glasses of Wild Duck Creek Estate.
Yes, exactly. So it's almost like going to, if
you were relaxed and
trusted me and had no fear of how I'd respond – what would you tell me? I like that one.
I'm pleased you weren't waiting for an answer. What story is the data telling us? What data are we missing?
What stories are we hearing?
Oh, I like that. What is the simplest, most obvious solution to this challenge? Here's a good one. You'll like this one. Imagine I'm 5 years old. How would you explain this issue to me?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good one too.
So that's 6 or 7 questions. I've put them on a cheat sheet. The best leaders know what questions to ask to make the complex simple, because actually the whole point of asking questions is for clarification, right? To understand something better so that you can comprehend it, maybe address it, solve for it, fix it, expand on it. And this is where great leadership comes into play, Ral. So the best leaders ask questions because what they're trying to do is simplify.
Yep.
Simplify stuff that's going on.
One of the things I think that the role of a leader, I mean, there's many roles, but especially the senior, is to make decisions.
Yeah.
You've got to make decisions.
On the fly. Often.
On the fly.
Yeah.
And often you'll have your team giving you advice on how we should do this. I think we should do this. I think other people are going to think we should do this. I think a really good question is tell me why you think that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're getting you're probably going with the most confident person.
That's
not
right.
the most capable.
The one who speaks up.
An example of this that I just thought of, we have a little bit of a family tradition where we do the age Saturday quiz.
Oh, it's great.
And we do it over, when the family come over, and Alex, my daughter, is brilliant at trivia. Like, she knows a lot of stuff. And we don't compete against each other. It's just as a team.
How do you get all the
how
questions
many
asked?
can we get right? And I'm not very good at trivia, so I read out the questions. So I'm reading out the questions, and I don't look at the answers, but I read out the questions. And what will happen on most occasions, Alex will give the answer, and then Steve or Anthony, Alex's partner, will give another answer, but say it very confidently. Now because I'm aware of this little dynamic that, men tend to say things confidently, I will say, why are you saying that?
What's your reasoning?
Steve, God bless him, will go, I don't know. It's just like in the recesses of my brain, right?
I can see Steve saying that.
And then Alex will go, Alex, why are you saying that? And she goes, oh, I remember we studied it at uni and there was a thing on that. And then I go, right, we're going with Alex's answer.
Because she's fact-based.
Because she's now told me why.
Justified.
And her reason sounds a lot more plausible than the recesses of my brain reason. And
sure enough.
yeah, well, 9 times, well,
Out of 10,
9.5 times out of 10, she's right. But so in that situation, I'm the leader. I've got to make the decision.
Yeah, you're facilitating.
And there's 3 or 4 people giving input, but we have to decide on one answer. So I've got to decide, and how I decide is tell me, why are you thinking that?
I love that. Well, that's another great question, right?
Yeah. What? Tell me why you
Help me
thinking
understand.
that. Help me understand that more.
Why you've chosen that
Why are you
answer.
so confident about that?
That's a great question, and also helps with self-awareness, reminding them that, just because they're confident doesn't mean to say they're right.
Correct.
I like that. I like that a lot. One of the questions that I used to ask later in my leadership roles, because I learned it later, sadly, was, what have I just said that you don't agree with? Because again, and I think we're going to do an episode on this anyway, so many of my team wouldn't challenge me. Oh, well, she's the leader, she must know.
Yeah.
Or she's the leader, so she's got to be right. Bollocks to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm right a lot, but I'm not always right.
But you know that what that question does, it gives them permission.
Exactly.
You know,
Challenge me.
a lot of
Speak up.
people sort of go, oh, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
You know what? That's a stupid question.
That's
do you have any
exactly
questions? It was like, but like, go tell me something you disagree.
I like that. Tell me something I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Who hasn't spoken up with a suggestion or an idea or whatever it might be? Interviews, job interviews.
Yeah.
Everyone knows they're going to be asked, do you have any questions? Sometimes you run out of time and they don't ask that,
Yep.
but most of the time they will. So you need to be prepared for some great questions.
Yeah.
Now, again, 2 things here. The first is you should be listening to what the questions they've asked you are, in order to ask some questions that are really relevant for you to actually show your curiosity about the role or the leadership or the culture or whatever it is, so that you're relevant, right? But there's another trick, Ral, that I absolutely coach on. With job interviews, the sooner you, as the person being interviewed, can ask a question in the interview process, the sooner you get some insight. And you can then tailor some of your answers to other questions based on the question you've asked them.
Yeah, that's nice. And I think it just gets you talking asking a question, but then get them talking, as opposed
That's
to all them.
right.
You ask they ask a question and you answer,
talk.
and it sort of I think it would relieve a bit of pressure too.
Agree. Well, it becomes a conversation then.
Yes,
Which is
changing it to a conversation.
a little more informal, a little more relaxing.
Yeah.
But that's where the gold comes out.
Yeah, well,
People
that's-
are relaxed.
And the in-depth, it was like, well, they might go, well, this is our policy, and it would be asking, well, why is that come about, or give me an example. I know with my storytelling workshops, you get the gold, like you just said. The gold is when people will tell a story, and then if I'm coaching them one-on-one, I'll be doing, so how did you feel when that happened?
Oh, great.
And then they go, oh, I felt so excited and blah, blah, blah. And I go, and how did they respond? And then all that, all those things that they've just said, I go, that's the story. That's got to be in the story, because that's the gold.
So what I'm hearing is, if I was to paraphrase you, if you want to tell great stories, ask great questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of yourself
The good
as much as others.
the good storytellers are great
Curious.
listeners, and
And
they're
they're
curious,
curious.
and they're digging deep to find the stories.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love that.
Especially to find other people's stories, or to dig deep in themselves to find about how they really felt about that.
All right. So the art of asking great questions. So if you are somebody who doesn't think of questions, who doesn't prepare, if you are somebody who is fearful of being judged, or somebody, telling you that was a dumb question, they never would, or if you're fearful of not getting an opportunity because you work with people that are extroverts, or who don't ever give you the opportunity to speak and don't pause, then we are challenging you.
Yeah.
Change that big time. Become somebody.
Django has come in and he's talking about questions.
down, please.
Why? When am I going to get fed?
You've had breakfast, you've had morning tea,
For
and you're about to
those
have
of
lunch.
you who are listening and want to see Jack's dog, get onto YouTube and check us out.
He's a big fat blonde like
He's
me.
He's like a big sheep.
Yeah, he is. Right, back to the
Anyway.
questions. The art of asking great questions.
So
Django.
it's knowing what good questions, and download your article
Cheat
you
sheet,
wrote.
absolutely.
Cheat sheet, 25 brilliant questions.
The best leaders know what questions to ask to make the complex simple. I've written up 25 great questions. You've added a few to those, which is really great.
Yep.
Become self-aware of how often you are or are not asking questions. Really think about this, yeah? It will really help you.
Yep. And I also think too is the role, and we've spoken this before, the more senior you become, you don't need to know all the answers.
No.
What you need to know is the questions to ask to get the answers. So,
Hire good people and then ask them questions.
Yeah.
And take note of people who are really good at questions, yeah? So journalists, reporters or somebody who's written a book who asks great questions. Understand what it is that they do. Yeah. And do more of that. Use them as almost as a role model. My job as a coach is to ask great questions, to seek to understand, because most people have the answers.
Yeah.
They just need to be asked the questions.
Yeah. And I would imagine that you're in a position, and a lot of people do this, you probably know the answer. When you coach people, you probably know the answer, but you've got to hold yourself back from going, right, this is what I think you should do, because the real value is for you to go, well, tell me why you're feeling that, or tell me why you did that. And so I think, and the point is too, sometimes you might think you know the answer. I worked with a CEO once and
But there can be more than one answer as well.
Exactly. This CEO, and he said, I often think I know the answer to something. He goes, but I deliberately go around and ask questions and listen because nearly every time the answer I had is not the answer, or there's a better answer.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Gee, that's a good leader. That's a leader that's listening, that's being inclusive, and that's asking great questions.
And you know what else he said to me? And he was a CEO of a major organisation. He said, my job, I get paid what I get paid is to make the right decisions for this company. And he went, so why would I not listen?
Absolutely.
So he was a good leader.
Winston Churchill said, if I wanted your opinion, I would have given it to you. The point of that is that a good leader hires great people to do the work and to give them the answers, but they still need to ask the right questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So hopefully that's been a good
The art of asking great questions.
Keepers, do you think it was a good podcast?
Yes, I do. I really do. There we are. One of our keepers just spoke.
Oh, I thought it was Nyango speaking. Talking about asking good questions, and we touched on this before, what's your favourite Wild Duck Creek Estate wine?
Can I say all of them? I mean, some of their whites I love.
Oh, yeah.
But
the white duck.
Yeah.
I think I like that best because it reminds me of you because you're an old white duck.
God, you're rude.
No, but we have had a few questions from our keepers about
what our favourite wine
now,
is.
a lot of people go, how do I access it again? Okay, just it's on the podcast. You get into their
Wild Duck Creek Estate website.
Go to the top right-hand corner that says Keeping It Real. Click on that. Type in Keepers, all lowercase, and you get access to the wines. A lot of people
Uppercase.
all uppercase.
No,
it's all lowercase.
lowercase.
Keehlan's.
The point is just write the word keepers in there and you will buy wine.
But Keehlan, the producer, is trying to correct us. He should know by now.
Going back to you listening to me, my favourite wine, I think I love the reserves because they're particularly special and I bring those out on very special occasions. But one of my favourites, just for quaffing, sort of, on a weekend or whatever, would be the Yellow Hammerhill Shiraz. It's a beautiful drop. Yeah. It really is, and great value.
Yeah. And for our keepers, like it is, we said before, about a $25 wine. It's normally $29 and we get it for $25.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you will buy this and go for a $25 bottle of wine.
Tastes like a $50 bottle.
So support the team at Wild Duck Creek Estate who are supporting us.
Yeah.
And we hope that's been a great episode.
Well, I think it is. The art of asking great questions. Happy days. Okay. Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Ral. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keehlan Ferrari-Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.